our objective is to really help enterprises in finance automate their middle and back office workflows with these composable AI agents that don't break the bank, don't require a PhD to go and set up and deploy, but can work in the compliance, in the regulated space that we play in, right? So it has a lot of the things that you would need for compliance to run with. So conference scores, audit trails, process documentation. And I think that gist of being the best in the world at doing that build for finance and insurance, that's what makes us special. That's who we are. And I think getting that across, I think, is super critical. So it's really incredible to do that within that 90-second window.
Welcome to Pioneers, the show where we explore the intersection between humanity and AI. I'm your host, Ankur Patel. Over the last 10 years, I've built 3 AI startups, written 2 books about the subject, and I run a weekly AI newsletter. I also regularly teach and speak about the topic at conferences. This technology has grown faster than I think any of us could have imagined, and it's making us ask really important questions, such as how ethical is AI? What will this technology look like in a few years, let alone a few months? And most importantly, does it have the power to truly change the world? And what does it mean for you? On this show, I'll be interviewing the founders, operators, and pioneers that are introducing AI into their companies and industries. We'll be asking them the really heavy-hitting questions that make them dig deep into the core of what we do. And without further ado, let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome back to Pioneers. Today's episode is another special one. I've got Andrew, our VP of Engineering here at Multimodal, with me, and we're going to talk about a huge milestone for our company, being selected for the Google Cloud AI Accelerator and attending Google Cloud Next 2025 in Las Vegas. We were chosen as one of just 15 startups globally for this accelerator, and I think it really speaks to where we're going with our agentic AI platform, Agentflow. So today we're going to unpack what this means for us, what we experienced at Cloud Next, and where we're headed next. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ankur. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm still obviously still surreal with everything that happened in Vegas. Between watching you pitch, doing all the networking, and especially seeing all the cool stuff that Google released, it was such an incredible experience. Awesome to be a part of.
I completely agree. So before we got down to some of the deeper stuff, Andrew, could you just maybe introduce yourself for our readers and share a little bit about what you do at Multimodal?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Andrew McKishnie. I'm the VP of Engineering here at Multimodal. I have a background in linguistics, actually. So languages are what drew me to AI. So being able to work with large language models has been an amazing experience. I've been at Multimodal for a little bit over 2 years now. I started out as an individual contributing engineer. Then I was leading a small team, and now I'm overseeing all of our engineering efforts. So that looks like me wearing a lot of different hats, obviously, at a small startup. So I still get my hands on the keyboard sometimes. I oversee all of our engineers. I help them create solutions, help to design the solutions. I interface with our customers. I speak with new potential clients, help out with the sales calls, and even sometimes give a little bit of advice to the marketing team. So a lot of different things here at Multimodal.
That's great. So maybe let's dive into the Google AI Accelerator. We've been part of other accelerators in the past. A lot of them happen to be insurtech or fintech focused, but this is the first major hyperscaler accelerator that we've been part of. So could you share a little bit more about the process, how we got selected, what the accelerator is all about?
Yeah, definitely. So the Google Cloud AI Accelerator is actually extremely competitive. There were many, many, many applicants, and we were just one of 15 to be selected. The point of the accelerator is to support startups that are building real scalable AI solutions, particularly those which use Google infrastructure. We were actually not using a ton of Google infrastructure before the startup, but with a lot of the updates that Google has brought out lately, particularly those that they announced at Next, and with this opportunity to collaborate so closely with the Google team and to have such great support, we've really expanded our Google footprint really massively lately. And with Gemini in particular has been really exciting to work with. So, and yeah, all the support from the Google AI Accelerator program has been excellent, and it's been really exciting. So I feel very fortunate to that Multimodal was selected to be part of the accelerator.
I completely agree. And I think what's helped is that, agentic AI is definitely the trend of the year. Last year, 2 years ago, was really about chatbots and assistants, co-pilots, more about generative AI, and now agentic AI is really the hot trend. And I think since we do agentic AI on some of the hardest problems in some of the toughest industries, the most regulated industries, namely finance and insurance, I think that helped us stand apart from the pack in terms of new capabilities are coming online for a segment that, that definitely needs a lot of it and is finding, some struggle in terms of like making it happen for them. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how sort of all this plays out. But I'm curious, in terms of multimodal and what we're building, from your perspective, what was attractive, maybe speaking on behalf of the Google AI team, in their reason for selecting multimodal to be part of this?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, I think that the fact that we focus on these very regulated verticals of finance and insurance was something that would have been attractive to the Google team. And just, I think relative to some of the other startups, we were maybe a little bit more mature in terms of our product development, even though we're still relatively early on in terms of our funding journey. So I think that puts us in a bit of a unique position relative to some of the other startups, because I found that a lot of them were a little bit earlier in their product journey, but still at a similar level in their funding journey to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could do a whole podcast on company building and why we
Yeah.
built the way we have. But I'm very curious about Vegas and what happened at Cloud Next. I think personally for me, I've been obviously building in this space a long time, but I've never attended Google Cloud Next. I had my own impressions, but I think maybe turning to you, there were tens of thousands of people there, some huge announcements, some great experiences, including one at the Sphere, seeing the Killers play live. But I think that, speaking to the major product and keynotes and such, what stood out to you most there?
So I think that the number one thing that stood out to me the most were the improved capabilities of Gemini with the release of their Gemini 2.5 Pro model. That was, I think, the biggest standout announcement to me. A lot of the demos that they did were, they were very interesting, very cool. But, at the end of the day, they are things that I've, seen before. But I think that Google, or the Gemini 2.5 Pro model, is easily the biggest thing. But the thing that I really took away from that experience was the opportunity to network with these other startups. I think particularly it was actually a really nice blend, I found, where we had some more intimate moments where, for example, what was it called? The boot camp day that we had with just our AI Accelerator cohort, only 15 startups there. It was probably 30 people getting a lot of one-on-one FaceTime with the Google team. And then on the flip side, you had this massive conference with, I think they said it was something like 40,000 people there, and all these different booths and everything. So it was really cool to get that sort of that difference of this, massive scale thing, but also combined with some more intimate moments, with the boot camp day and some of the happy hours and such.
Yeah, I think additional items that I found to be super special were you had some really senior members from Google that, especially where they're on the boot camp day. So I think hearing from people like Paige Bailey on the DeepMind team, seeing what was happening, Gemini, what's coming down the pipe, what's top of mind for them, it was incredible to see. I think personally speaking and professionally speaking, the last 2 years, when I look at the landscape, OpenAI was kind of the front runner in model building and had amazing releases and kept leading the pack. But then Anthropic and Llama from Meta, they came into the mix, and Google always felt a little behind, right, with some of the models that they released, and there were some public missteps and how the model was perhaps somewhat biased in some of the more public demos they did. But I think last 3 to 6 months, I've just been blown away by the close that Gemini has done and maybe even paved a new path in certain areas. And so seeing the team there speak about Gemini, what's not only happening today, but what is coming down the pipe, I think that's really exciting, because I think that's it encourages us, for example, building in the space, to look very closely at the Gemini models and build on Google Cloud, because it's being backed very heavily by Google leadership. So I think that was pretty phenomenal. But you're right. I think the networking, seeing people there, seeing competition as well, seeing the other vendors with booths, I think all of that was very, very enriching.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, let's not forget, the star of the show, which was you and your 90-second pitch. How did you feel when you were doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think pitching in 90 seconds is much harder than having the floor for 20 to 30 minutes because you basically have to create a lot of buzz and excitement and still have one or two big takeaways that the audience picks up within 90 seconds. So I think we spent a lot of time drilling down what are the few things that we want to communicate because you only have 90 seconds of airtime. And I thought that was really helpful to know and understand what do we want to communicate in that brief segment. Because of course, if we have 20, 30 minutes, we could do a fuller demo, we could do a fuller breakdown. But I think there was some incredible story crafting that the Google AI team helped us with, helped me with, helped do with. And I think it was incredible to be on stage, get that pitch done. And I think since then, I think when we have like elevator pitch type moments where we run into someone at a cocktail party or at a networking session, it's much cleaner and easier to go into that mode and say like in 20 seconds or 30 seconds, what is that one thing that will help kind of create excitement, hook the audience, like the other party in listening more to what we're building in the space. So I think that was a really phenomenal moment. And I'm hoping that as we do the bigger demo and presentation in June, we continue to build on that momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that it was organized so well the way that they had, say, like me sitting at a particular table and then you would come join me after. So that I know that for me really stimulated a lot of really good discussion with some of the other people who had sat at my table. I've even stayed in contact with one of them on LinkedIn. We've chatted a couple of times. So yeah, it was really great.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the critical thing is like, what makes us special, right? What do we do? And I think the core thing that we walked away with was like, our objective is to really help enterprises in finance automate their middle and back office workflows with these composable AI agents that don't break the bank, don't require a PhD to go and set up and deploy, but can work in the compliance, in the regulated space that we play in, right? So it has a lot of the things that you would need for compliance to run with. So conference scores, audit trails, process documentation. And I think that gist of being the best in the world at doing that build for finance and insurance, that's what makes us special. That's who we are. And I think getting that across, I think, is super critical. So it's really incredible to do that within that 90-second window.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really love the support that the Google team had for us with bringing that pitch expert, Alex Gold, I believe his name was. It was really awesome, working with him, having someone to bounce these ideas off of, because I think it's easy for you and me to get stuck in our little bubble, right? Where we know this so in depth, right? And so when we think we're getting something across in 90 seconds, and I think Alex's impression at the start was, oh, this is, information overload, which, it's really easy to do that. So it's really valuable to have that sort of outside perspective of working with the Google team.
That's right. And I think the Google Cloud Next was just the start, right? It was like the second week of the program. It's a 3-month program. So what's exciting about working with the Google team and building on Google in your view?
Yeah, I mean, several things. So far they've had a lot of sessions for us on different topics, a couple of sessions a week, and those have been extremely informative. I've learned a lot of new ideas. I've presented some of our work and some of my ideas, gotten some really great feedback. I also really like all the direct support that we're getting. It really has made it a lot easier for us to integrate these new Google products and their tools into our workflows much more quickly than if we were just kind of, flying blind trying to read the docs ourselves. And as well, what's really been exciting for me actually is the mentorship program that they've offered to us. So I know that several members of our team have already booked some mentoring sessions. I've actually had a couple myself, and on a little bit more out of the box topics. So for me in particular, I've really been focusing on my leadership and management skills with the mentors, because, that's something that I didn't really have any experience before working with multimodal. And yeah, I found that really valuable already. I've actually implemented a few of the pieces of advice that I've gotten already with the team, and it's really resonated well with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible to see the red carpet treatment, because, you're right. There's so much access to mentors, to workshops, to feedback. And then I think there are these sessions that you could organize more privately. So outside of the big group sessions, where you have some question around how do you get more out of Gemini in different ways that we're looking at, right? So And I know this week we recently came off of a session around how do we generate more synthetic data to help prime the agentic AI to see more examples than we have real world data on. And that's really important because if you could simulate the type of documents or decisions or queries that are commonplace within finance and insurance without requiring the customer to supply them, then you basically could run dozens times more simulations in the form of synthetic data so that agentic AI gets better on its own, right? So that self-reinforcing mechanism is really powerful. And so seeing like how can we do that better with some of the natively multimodal models that are coming online from Google, like via Gemini, is pretty incredible, and working through kind of the these models in areas that they're good, and then areas that they continue to improve on, but maybe not are quite fully mature. I think that level of exposure and partnership with Google has been great. So, and I think that's helped us build more on Google. As you mentioned earlier, we weren't necessarily a huge Google shop. Now we're becoming more so, and it's because of the strong partnership that we've seen from the Google team throughout the program.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd really just love to echo the importance of the ability to make that synthetic data, particularly when it comes to the industries that we work in, right? Because it can be so difficult to get access to data. I mean, some clients that takes 2, 3, 4 weeks just to get that all set up, right? And sometimes that can cause delays and things like that. So I think now having the ability to generate some synthetic data can, get us kicked off faster. It can, expand our training data set. I think there are a lot of applications of that, which are really exciting for us. So Ankur, just kind of turning things back to you. So what happens after the accelerator? What are we really excited about over the next few months?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the accelerator, it's a very intense 3-month period. But then after you're kind of back to, okay, well, what did you take away? What did it accelerate you to do? Right. And I think that's what we're planning right now. But I think a couple of things. One, I think we're definitely going to have much more Gemini or all Gemini model based builds for agentic AI. We're going to also have one-click deployments available through Google Marketplace, which allows us to work with Google sellers into finance and insurance to co-sell our agentic AI platform. So I'm very excited to have a deeper partnership, even on the go-to-market side. And I think this is critical because I think a lot of customers and prospective customers think that multimodal is competing with Google or Amazon or Azure, and that is really far from reality. So obviously Google, Microsoft, and Azure, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, they provide a lot of the compute and storage and other microservices to the customers like us. And we're building a platform layer company to sell directly into finance and insurance. So there's a lot of synergy between us and a hyperscaler. And I think that's what we're going to be exploring. But immediately coming up, we're still a couple of weeks into the accelerator. We have a lot more to go. We want to go and do this one-click deployment. We want to have an all Gemini build. And then there's demo day in June, right? And it happens to be the same week that is New York Tech Week in here, and we'll also be doing InsurTech Insights. A very busy week for our team, but we'll be pitching our partners, customers, investors. So it's going to be a great awareness channel. And then beyond that, what we're going to do is we're going to then work with some of the existing accounts where those accounts happen to be on Google Cloud, and they're looking very closely at agentic AI, and they're looking at agent space, Google's agentic AI platform for certain use cases, particularly some of the more horizontal ones that work well within the Google ecosystem. And then they're looking at multimodal, right, as a player to go and drive automation and around some of the core workloads within insurance and finance workloads like claims adjudication, underwriting, and lending. So I'm pretty excited to go and have that joint collaboration with Google and Google sellers into the segments that we care about.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited for the same things as well. I think something that coming up that I'm really excited about is some of our we're really going to be increasing our off-the-shelf capabilities, because I think we've focused a lot on very custom development, which is awesome. I really enjoy doing that, but having something a little bit more off the shelf, less setup time, I think it's going to be really exciting to see how we're able to scale using something like that. Because I think that something that we've found is that, for smaller customers, they're not as moved by some of the things that our enterprise customers are moved by, right? And I think that some of the custom work that we've done in mid-market in the past has maybe been a little bit overkill and has, just taking too much time to get set up, maybe cost too much for them. So it's really exciting that we're kind of branching out now and having a more dedicated mid-market arm and a more dedicated enterprise arm, which is still, heavily relies on that customization. Yeah, I think having these two different types of branches is going to be really enabling for us on the sales front, and just, really exciting on the engineering front.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And you need really great out of the box capabilities. And I think we historically have done such a incredible white glove implementation of exactly what the customer needs. But I think getting them, closer to the finish line directly out of the platform, so out of the box, is really critical, because then it requires less, like, last mile build is what we call it, less configuration to make the customer successful, and more out of the box capabilities. What you're able to do with more out of the box is you're able to make it easier to implement, but you're also able to reduce the cost at which you sell the agentic AI, right? Because more of it is already pre-built. There's less like custom work to the end customer. And that, I think, will really help deliver better customer experiences at a price point that makes sense, particularly in mid-market, but also enterprise, right? I do think, though, that what makes us special, and I'm curious what your thoughts on this are, is, we allow the end customer to inject their institutional knowledge into the agentic AI. And that's critical because there are going to be many, many different types of agentic AI that need to be built out across an organization, sometimes dozens and dozens of areas. And if you're not able to supply the institutional knowledge that you have around how that team works, then the agentic AI is never going to be good enough. Not in this space where it's like you have zero tolerance for error. Like, one thing that you screw up is going to be catastrophic. There's headline risk and all the things. And so we're very good at that. And we have to be very good at that because our customers absolutely care about that. Their tolerance for failures is minimal. So, I'm curious, like, how much of that is still very important, top of mind for our customers, as much as that, they want like out of the box experiences.
Yeah, I think that there are sort of different types of customers that are looking for different types of experiences. And I think that what we've done a good job of in the last couple of months is really planning on how we can cater to those experiences differently. So, like I was mentioning, those out of the box capabilities, that's something that we didn't really focus on. But like you said, with the, the white glove implementation that we've done, I think what we do a very good job of is, like you said, with the institutional knowledge. But I think the way that we do that, and what makes us very good at doing that, is we do a really great job of building relationships with the client. And it almost seems, with some certain clients, sometimes I don't even feel like a vendor. I feel like I'm, an employee of the company. There are several clients who I have, great relationships with. I even catch up with them on, just a personal basis. So yeah, I think that really deep embedding really allows us to learn their business, how they like to do things, what makes them different, and how we can amplify that differentiation for them. I think that is one of our biggest differentiators.
Yeah. And I think, in fact, investors have called that out, which is like, we have a Palantir style model around introducing agentic AI, where we get really close to the customer, understand their business operations, kind of roll up our sleeves to do that implementation, but we make them insanely successful. And because agentic AI is going to unlock tremendous amounts of value for the customer, the amount that they like gain in terms of net value is worthwhile for them in order to spend on us to go and help them do a really great implementation. So it's not like a marginal impact to their businesses. It's pretty much night and day, right? It's a step function change in how they operate. So I think we want to continue to build it with that vein and try to do that faster, cheaper, right, at scale across many workflows. I think Agent Flow this year has been a great enabler of that, and we're doubling down, tripling down on those experiences, leveraging, accelerators like Google's, as well as the Accenture's accelerator that we're part of, to go deeper into finance and insurance. So yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly spot on, Andrew. Well, Andrew, thanks for joining us today. I know this was an incredible conversation. I do want our audience to hear more from you as time goes by, but it's clearly not just like a PR moment, like being part of this accelerator. It's intimately changing the way that we build from a product engineering and design perspective. So it's definitely a pivotal step in our journey as we build and scale agentic AI for finance and insurance in a way that meets their requirements, right? And works in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very grateful for the Google for Startups team, Google for Startups here, for their belief in us. And, we're really excited to keep sharing what we're learning as we go along. And, just one last thing I wanted to mention, Ankur, kind of circling back to the conference, I think that was really exciting for me on a more personal level. But you and I have worked together now for a couple of years. I've spent hours and hours and hours on Zoom calls with you, but that was actually the first time we got the chance to meet in person, which it was really great for me. I really enjoyed that, developing that personal connection with you. And like I've said many times, I have huge respect for you. I think you're extremely talented individual, and it's a real honor to work for you.
I appreciate that, Andrew. Yeah, it was really, really nice hanging out in person and having some of the softer, just more chill moments that you don't have because you're just go professionally on Zoom calls. And so, we'll try to do more of that. But I think that was nice that the Google moment for us made that happen. So definitely very happy about that. And so everyone that's listening, stay tuned. We'll have more people on our team on the podcast. We'll be sharing updates from not only the Google's Accelerator, but new feature updates from Agent Flow and more behind the scenes stories from Vegas. So until then, this is Pioneers. Catch you all